Okay. Are we up? Hey everybody. Okay, here we go. Hey Zach, Ben, Tricky Woo. Thanks for tuning in. Howdy. Okay, looks like everything's coming through okay. So I want to go through this post done today by Tracking the Leopard Meroz. And as well as addressing the post, I'm going to go into a little bit of what I think is the actual context of it and what's going on. So let's get into it. Can you guys see this blog post okay on the screen? Is that coming through all right? It says the elliptical universe of the crypto beast, that would be me, and the Grand Master of the Order of the One-Star Monk Tell, which I think they're talking about Thomas Schoenberger. They're saying that he's a monk. Hey Elizabeth, hey Shane. Actually, you're mentioned in this article as well, Elizabeth. So we're going to be talking about you a bit. Feel free to weigh in with any comments you have, and for you as well, Zach. So I guess Jacqueline Weaver, Leopard Meroz. I learned about her site from following Dave Acton, George Webb, the Port of Charleston incident, where on Jason Goodman's live stream they shut down the 8th busiest port in the United States for several hours with this ridiculous dirty bomb hoax. This idea that there was some bomb made from uranium, which isn't even possible. And, that's now the subject of Dave Acton's lawsuit against Jason Goodman, which not only have I been named in, but Goodman is trying to add me to the suit as a third-party defendant. So that will be quite interesting since he is the defendant. So, I don't quite get how he's going to counter-sue against me. His statement of claim is kind of ridiculous, but we'll wait and see what the judge does for that one. But anyway, I like the site. I like the lady, Jacqueline, and I enjoy her writing. I don't always agree with her, and probably in real life, I don't know that we would be pals. But in terms of the blogosphere, I respect her work, and it's one site that I enjoy reading. But she, I know, has had some tensions and stresses with Thomas, and that's now overflowing to me. And there's a quite an interesting kind of plot at work, and many people are participating in this plot. And is the Leopard Meroz also now participating in this plot? I don't know, but the plot that I'm talking about is basically demonizing and isolating Thomas, and the same for anyone that's perceived as a friend of his. And so they try very, very hard to paint me as a friend of his, and so I therefore can be attacked for all of the things that Thomas has done. And I've never met the guy. I've spoken to him on the phone once, I think, maybe twice, and we've exchanged DMs and emails, and I think he's a good guy, and I think he's an interesting character, and I think he has been really wrongly maligned by a lot of people. Now, that's not to say he is a saint, And I know there is this whole Saint Germain character thing going on, but I don't see the guy running around and doing the types of things he's being accused of. I do see him fighting people, and some of the weapons I guess he uses in these online fights are a little extreme. He can punch pretty hard when he gets pissed off. It's not someone that I would want to be, in some kind of internet war with. And say, oh, well, he's a gang stalker, he's a terrible fella. Well, okay, if that's what you think of the guy, then why are you constantly picking fights with him? Like, constantly, on a daily basis. And this goes out to the broader gang who I don't know if any of them ever watch this channel anyway, but yeah, this guy here, Jesse Davis, always learning. I don't know if that's supposed to be a funny joke or if that's dyslexia at work or something. But, old man, he's definitely one of the people who's constantly attacking Thomas. And then if you stand up for Thomas or if you defend him in any way, these guys will come and attack you as well. So interesting that she opens up this post with this thing. Once upon a time in a faraway kingdom, the Grand Master of the Order of the Stone Monktal was challenged by an old man. Thomas, I do not think a monk would attack people, especially women like you do. It seems you've been crushed and consumed by your ego. As for prison bars, you might just be looking through a set of your own sooner than you think if you continue this path. That's another thing about this gang, is just constant threats. They're always threatening. Like, oh, you're going to end up behind bars. Oh, you're going to have a lawsuit. Oh, you're going to get what's coming to you. I got a whole Twitter thread from this morning of just pointing out some of Defango's threats and then having his rabid fan base trying to defend and justify and explain them away, twisting themselves in all sorts of turns trying to do that. And anyway, what old man's talking about here is he's posted an email from Saint Germain to Vox. It says, long ago, I was blinded by ego. I relished in my talents and ignored the cries of many voices. Today, I chose humbleness. I'm a monk because I hear better as one. I reject thrones because thrones are made of prison bars. Pavana, you are more than a housewife, clearly. The greatest people I know are those who listen and learn. I always want to grow. That's why I reject the crown and embrace the thorns. I mean, it's an unusual way of emailing people and speaking, but he's a creative guy. He's a composer, and he has a very rich, detailed, almost poetic kind of view on life. And I don't know that these people were really objecting to receiving these emails. This doesn't seem like it's a threat or stalking or harassment or driving someone to suicide or any of these other types of things. And so that's what, for me, studying these psyops, studying Crowdsource the Truth and Defango and the LARP wars, I'm looking for what's true. And if you can provide me proof of what's true, that's good. If I challenge you to provide proof and you refuse to, that's not good. It's hard for me to take you seriously and trust you if, when I, ask you to actually show some evidence, the citations to back up your claims, and you don't want to. Instead, you just turn to the ad hominem attacks. Well, those people get dismissed in my mind. They're of weak intellect, and their arguments are kind of worthless because they can't back them up. Thomas backs his arguments up. If I ask him to produce evidence or proof, he does, and he's produced tons of it. Tons more than anybody else I can think of that I've been covering in this story. So, as I get attacked by the same people that he gets attacked with in a constant basis, where they're battling these demons together, probably we are becoming friends, even though I've never met him. I like the guy. I hope he wins with all of this. But it's incredible though the pressure to disavow and denounce, and there was a flare up that's happened this week with Louder Than Love, Alessandro, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today as well. I'll come back to that later. Let me stay on focus with this post. All right. So Thomas Schoenberger in recent months has been hiding out from one or more process servers. Well, I mean, has he? I understand that people have been trying to serve him in civil lawsuits and have failed, but is that because he's hiding out, or is it just because they can't find him? I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but when I write stuff on my blog and I make claims like that, it's usually a clickable link, and when you link to it, it'll be like the reference document for what I'm talking about. Here, I don't know what's the reference. He endeavours to stay only at 1-star motels that lack a throne room. Now, so this seems to be a reference to when Defango put out a 1 Bitcoin bounty for Thomas to be captured. Kidnapping, basically, like publicly endorsing a kidnapping, one of the many crimes that this guy commits and gets away with. Known and admitted FBI informant, continually publicly committing crimes and never getting in trouble for them. And then Chronic Ops said, well, I've tracked him down and he's at this Motel 6 in some location. And tried to claim the bounty, right? He wanted the 1 Bitcoin bounty. And then, of course, Defango, well, as if he's going to pay up just because somebody, just because he made an offer and someone fulfilled it and then was therefore owed the Bitcoin. That's no reason to pay. It was all just a laugh. It was all just a joke. Ha, ha, ha. But, Thomas is getting hunted and tracked down by people using, bragging about their hacker skills and their ops, their shadowy ops, their shadow brokers and that, tracking people down and offering bitcoins for their kidnapping. So this is not just doxing, this is going way to the next level, hunting people on the internet. And that is something that I absolutely don't support at all. Like if Thomas was offering a bitcoin to kidnap people, if he was trying to hunt people down on the internet, I couldn't support that. I wouldn't go along with that. Now, I know he definitely tries to identify some of the anonymous accounts that are attacking him and slandering him, but is that really him being a stalker, or is that him defending himself from what they've said about him, Like, if they never said anything about him, would he still be tracking them down and trying to get them, Or is it just the ones that are, talking shit about him on a daily basis that he, get his attention? I don't know. He's his own guy. Ask him. So he's staying in these 1-star motels. Now, the Grandmaster Knight once had a maid, Marian, to make his bed and empty his ashtrays. Known by the internet handle Elizabeth Vering, she devoted untold days helping him to fight against big baddies with millions and millions of dollars and all the common thugs money can buy. But then this maid found herself being ignored as the Grandmaster turned his attentions to a fellow knight in expandable armor, the Crypto Beast. So what does that mean, expandable armor? I guess that's like some kind of, sly dig at my weight. And she talks in this post quite a bit about this guy, Trujillo, who that's one of his favourite attack vectors as well. So I'm starting to notice, the commonalities in the different attack vectors. Another one they use is anti-Semitism, and another one is QAnon that's now being developed that we're going to talk a bit about today. But since Elizabeth is there in the chat, maybe you'd like to give us a comment. Do you feel that once Thomas took an interest in me, you became ignored? I personally don't think that that's true. But and then we go to rumor has it that one day the Grandmaster was reading burnerafterreadingmag.com, which is actually that's not the title of it. It's burnafterreadingmag.com. So that's pretty sloppy referencing there, when he spotted this Danger Ranger comment shown below. It was like reading the Help Wanted column, only to discover the opportunity of the century. So what? And then it says this quote here: things on the internet are not always what they claim to be. The troll behind Burners.me is a lone individual who made $50 million in the tech field. Steve Outtrim, King Zos on Facebook, owns several expensive homes in Australia, Europe, and California. His private plane flies him into Burning Man each year, where his big RV is waiting for him. He has no problem with hiring professional trolls like Otis Beard to mount sock puppet attacks. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Who needs a Maid Marian when the Crypto Beast has scores of them? So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff packed into there, but it's what this is referencing is actually very, very interesting, because this was the first time that I got doxed. And when I started my blog, burners.me, writing about Burning Man, I wrote as Burners XXX, which is the handle I use on WordPress. It's attached to all my posts. And the reason for that is that at the time, I hadn't retired again. I was still working. and I was getting one of my companies ready to go public in an IPO. And I'm doing a lot of business in the Middle East, which is a place where, most areas of it, there's no drinking permitted at all. You steal, you get your hand chopped off. You accidentally brush against a woman in the mall, and you could be chucked in jail, right? And so this is not the sort of place where they approve of Burning Man, where you've got Victoria's Secret models running around naked, high on their face on Molly. You've got basically the most flamboyant out there performances from the LGBT parade crew that you've ever seen, like the Folsom Street Fair in San Francisco. That's pretty full on for all the leather queens and stuff like that. But Burning Man, that shit's going on a constant daily basis. And hey, look, Burning Man's fun. You should go check it out. I went 11 times to the big one and once to a regional one. And maybe I will go again one day. But when I started my blog, I was pretty into it, and I wasn't as cynical about it as I've become now. But I decided to write about it anonymously because I didn't want to make a big deal that I went to Burning Man. Just like I don't want to make a big deal that, I when I was going to raves in the 90s, I wouldn't come into a business meeting the next day and say, oh yeah, I've just been to a wicked rave all night, it was fucking epic, the DJ was Paul Oakenfold, No, I tried to keep my personal life separated from my business life. And one of the things at Burning Man is you have these plier names, so everyone gets a separate name, and it's part of the whole transformation of identity that they're trying to thrust upon you through this massive and elaborate social engineering machine. And so that's part of the burner culture. You go by your plier name. That's how you're known. So you don't have to use your real identity at Burning Man. In fact, you're encouraged to take on other identities while you're there. That's part of it. And so this is sort of the code of Burning Man is this anonymity, kind of like the code of the internet. When the internet began, it was completely fine and even expected to have anonymous handles that you could use. And much of Twitter is like that. And people are freaking out and up in arms about sock puppet accounts, but there are definite legitimate reasons for people to have anonymous accounts. I'm under everything as Steve Outtrim, but the only reason that I am is because of this incident, because of when I got doxxed. And this guy Danger Ranger, who's writing it, he's actually one of the founders of Burning Man, one of the 6 original founders, and he's got a background in the Navy, quite possibly intelligence. He's got some massive big black holes in his resume where we don't really know what he was doing. You go into my whole Shadow History series on Burning Man, particularly Part 6, The Who's Who. It talks about this guy in quite a lot of detail. And then also, Leopard Meroz is talking about making these jokes about Maid Marian. Well, the CEO of Burning Man, also considered one of the 6 founders, Marian Goodell, that's her plier name, Maid Marian, right? That's how she goes. So she's weaving in all kinds of Burning Man stuff into this post, including this Maid Marian thing. So when I got doxxed, I wrote this big post in response, and I'll put the links to the show in the YouTube discussion, but basically talking about why I was anonymous and addressing these claims that this guy made, and he's trying to say that I'm a bad person for having money, right? And he's trying to appeal to a certain this is going to put this in context that San Francisco back in 2014, we've got coming out of the Occupy movement, they're shutting down the ports and everything like that, and jackbooted thugs under Obama, basically. But the Twitter and the internet companies were just starting to move to the city, like, Zynga and ones like that. They were starting, I think Twitter had their IPO probably around this time and started to mint the first Twitter millionaires. San Francisco today, 2020, is like so much more expensive that you basically can't live there unless you're rich. And so the hatred of the rich is not probably as passionate. You'd have to go to other pockets of San Francisco Bay Area now to find that. But yeah, that's what he's trying to say, and he's trying to say that because I've got all this this money that I'm terrible, and he's listing a bunch of stuff that's not true. Like he's saying that I own all of this property, which is false. I mean, at the time I didn't own any houses anywhere in the world. And then my private plane flies them into Burning Man each year. Well, I have never flown to Burning Man on a private plane. I've owned shares in companies that owned and operated private aircraft, but if you own shares in Apple, then that's true for you as well. So, and certainly I never took a private aircraft to Burning Man, although the last time I went, I finally got someone from my family to come. My sister came, and she did fly in a small aircraft as part of the air charter service. Because that's quite a common way to come into Burning Man, actually, for people who don't want to line up at the gate for like 10 hours before they even get in the desert and in the dust. So here I've addressed this, and as part of this doxing, I had a Facebook account, King's Os, not in my name, for the reasons that I was saying before about being anonymous. So I do still operate a Facebook account personally as well as a public one. And there's a way that you can do that completely legally and completely within Facebook's terms of service and everything. But I'm not going to tell you guys that. If you're really nice to me and you really want that, maybe I will. Hit me up privately. Hey, Rumblefish, how you going, mate? So here's a picture of my RV. He talks about I'm taking this private plane into this, my luxury RV. And look, I definitely did rent Will Smith's trailer for Burning Man one year, and the guy that makes it, Ron Anderson, his family, they're my very good mates now. And so if I ever go back to Burning Man again, I'll probably rent one of their trailers again. I've been back since in other trailers in their fleet. And I have rented luxury RVs to Burning Man, but I decided that, it would be more fun to have my own one and take it to other festivals as well. So I bought this thing on eBay for $19,000, It's really nothing too fancy. Renting a house. And then he mentions this guy, Otis Beard. So yeah, I did employ that guy as a guest writer. And he's an old-time burner, one of the original people from the Cacophony Society that, was there as this thing was truly coming together. And also someone based up in Reno, Nevada, with a connection to that side of the burner scene as well. Burning Man headquarters is in San Francisco, but the event itself is in Gerlach, Nevada. So, they have to have operations in two different states. So, Otis is a funny, crotchety old dude. I never met him. I don't think I ever even spoke to him in the whole time that he was writing there. But he wrote about 100 posts, and we had a bit of a falling out, and I got rid of him. Then I had another guest writer, Terry Gotham, great guy. That wasn't so much a falling out, but I just decided I wanted to take my blog in the direction it's going now, which is writing about whatever's interesting to me, including sometimes Burning Man. And so we went our separate ways, but he did an excellent job as well. And over the years, I've had about 30 different people have written guest posts on this site. So I've never used any sock puppet accounts, and I've never asked anyone to troll anywhere. But plenty of evidence of Burning Man employees and friends of the founders trolling burners.me. And then I provide links and references to all the claims, and usually I'm just quoting what people from the Burning Man organization have said to the media. And, I tried to get him to adjust and correct his lies. He refused. I messaged him privately. He just started trolling more. Then people started raiding my Facebook page and posting personal photos from there. People went on and they started making dedicated websites just to post my personal photos, right? I mean, this is like hardcore. And this is 2014 as well, This is, full court press doxing. And about 9 a.m., Danger Ranger appeared, commenting on his post. Great. I thought, yeah, great. Now I can talk to him and he can realise he was misinformed and remove these lies. But nope, he just completely ignored me, responded to the other commenters, and then I was locked out of Facebook. Somebody reported my account because it wasn't a real person's name, and it got frozen. And then this guy got suspended, and I got blamed for it because he was also using a fake name. which, another thing that I didn't do that I got blamed for. But anyway, you can read all more of the details of this. I made comments on their website trying to correct it. And what Burning Man said, this is Burning Man commenting back, right? So he's like, if this guy, if I've said anything inaccurate, he can clear it up. Come and write it. I don't employ any trolls, blah, blah, blah. And Burning Man says, nothing in this post violates our comment policy. A comment not being 100% factually accurate is not grounds for removal. This is one of the directors of the organisation, and this particular organisation has a special charter where the directors are required to abide by the 10 principles of Burning Man. And this guy wasn't. So, and anyway, this was a whole situation. And what it ended up, right, now that I was outed and connected with Burning Man, not just from this Burn After Reading magazine, picking up this story of Danger Ranger, doxing me on Facebook, and that was picked up on other burner sites as well. And then because of that, my name in Google searches is instantly associated with Burning Man. And they're talking about money as well, right? So, but at the time this was going on, I also had heard that there was a story being done in Bloomberg about Burning Man. So I'm like, well, I guess rather than just being kicked in the guts, and it's a pretty tough feeling when you get doxxed. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it happened to my wife recently. She was doxxed by Jason Goodman and Jan Irvin, and she was just devastated for days. Like, if those guys were hoping to hurt me and inflict pain on me, cause pain and trauma and trouble in my marriage, and cruelly hurt a completely innocent person, they succeeded. Good for you, Jason. Good for you, Jan. Hope you feel really good about yourselves. See you guys in court. I've seen other people getting doxxed as well, and it can ruin people's lives. It's scary, and this is part of what's been happening with this Leopard Meroz post. But I thought that rather than getting beaten up by it, I'm just going to embrace it. And so I called up the guy, the Bloomberg journalist, and I, made comments on the story, and I got my name associated with Burning Man in Bloomberg on my terms, making quotes that was actual things that I said rather than people interpreting what I'm saying. So doxing doesn't have to be the end of the world, but it's very interesting that this Leopard Meroz has brought up this doxing incident and relating to Burning Man when she herself has been in a doxing incident. So Elizabeth made a video. This is how it ends. I haven't seen the video. And as a now deleted comment, she said, breaking up with the head of Cicada 3301, the last surviving member of the original 3 founders, 2 retired spooks and 1 Silicon Valley tech. Now, just to clarify, that's not me, either the Silicon Valley tech or the retired spooks. I've never been a spook, but I have been a Silicon Valley tech guy for sure. But that's not me. They're talking about Ian Murdoch, who created Debian Linux, who's supposedly one of the founders of Cicada 3301, along with Bruce C. Clark Jr. And Thomas Schoenberger. Now, this is perhaps a thing that's disputed. I don't know. For me, I'm happy for that to be the working story of the origins of Cicada 3301. For my purposes, that's fine. So you want to split hairs about who else it was or who it really was or whatever, fine. But I think there's a lot of evidence that Thomas was involved in creating puzzles for it. And Thomas has produced evidence that he knew Bruce. So that's something. It's not perfect, but it's something. So what's the evidence for the alternative arguments? I'm still definitely open to considering it. But going back to Elizabeth's comments, it's been an exciting ride. Never thought I'd ever save somebody or sign up for anything I had a really good chance of dying over and that I would think was actually worth it. But it's amazing what happens when you're in the right place at the wrong time and fall in with a group of weirdos on the internet. Never thought that tiny little me would be fighting real monsters, big baddies in the intelligence community, or who have millions upon millions of dollars and all the many common thugs money can buy. maybe I still can somehow, but not out of any sentiment for that man and not his battles. So, look, whatever, relationships break up. It sounds like they're still on reasonably cordial terms and everything. It's nothing to do with me. And I kind of get the feeling that there's an insinuation, the way that Meroz has put this paragraph in the story, the insinuation is kind of trying to link me to this paragraph in some way. Either because people will think, oh, Silicon Valley Tech, it's a story about Crypto Beast. Yeah, that must be him. Or millions upon millions of dollars, it's a story about Crypto Beast. That must be referring to him. So that means he must be in the intelligence community and consorting with thugs. But again, I'll ask Elizabeth if she's still here. Were you referring to me then? You know, do you think that tiny little you was fighting me as this monster baddie in the intelligence community with millions of dollars? I mean, I don't think so at all. I think we've always had a great relationship. So this is just more silliness, right? And so here we go, the elliptical universe of the Grandmaster and the Crypto Beast. Most target shooters practice hitting a bullseye in a perfect circle and develop an instinct for knowing where the center point is. Trap and skeet shooting involves hitting a moving target that has a parabolic path affected by gravity. But an ellipse shape presents a different challenge because there are two focal points which serve to define its perimeter. So basically why she's going on about this stuff is that she's trying to say that she's illustrating a method of reputation destruction employed by two people working together in an elliptical relationship. Now, it's very interesting because what she's saying on the surface is that Thomas and I are working together in this elliptical relationship in order to do reputation destruction. That's a claim that's completely false. I deny it categorically, and I find it offensive. And given the the lawsuits and stuff that's flying around at the moment, that's kind of a dangerous claim for her to be making. But anyway, not only is it false, but what's interesting is that, you know, she's basically tag teaming with Esteban Trujillo in writing these blog posts, you know, attacking me just at the same way that, you know, DeFango and then his team of moderators and minions come on to Twitter and you know, landladies and, you know, constantly poking and prodding me on Twitter, trying to, you know, get a rise out of me, get a response out of me. And then the moment they do, they report back to certain other people, and there's certain other people who have me blocked on Twitter then go and broadcast it on their very large platforms like, oh my God, look what Steve Outtrim said. Oh my God. The horror of it. How dare someone say something on Twitter? I mean, it's on my public timeline, dude. Anyone can read it, right? You know, it's just kind of reasonable shit. But so this is almost like doublespeak, that she is illustrating a method of reputation destruction with an elliptical relationship, but it's in what she's doing with this post and in what Esteban's doing with his post as well. These kind of tag team attacks where they seem unrelated, but in fact they're quite intertwined, and we'll go into that a bit. So here's Thomas messaging Jason Goodman, which, you know, I really wish that he hadn't done that, and he apologized to me for it because, you know, Jason Goodman is not a good dude. That is one evil guy, and he's gonna get what's coming to him in the court. He's been lying to the court. I've posted evidence of him lying to the court. He told the court, under oath, he told the court that he's never put someone on live stream without their knowledge. Right? I've showed video of him doing exactly that to Laura Loomer. And then others pointed out to me that he also did that with people from the Washington Post and the New York Post and many others. So, you know, and you can't... okay, you want to lie on a blog, you want to lie on Twitter, that's one thing. And maybe it does end in some huge defamation lawsuit against you. But you want to lie under oath to a judge, that gets you in jail, dude. So that's what this guy is facing, in my opinion. But, you know, I wasn't talking about him at all. Can I even open this post? No, it doesn't look like it. So, my tweet is, some new findings today. George Webb wrote a book about their dad's radio life pretending to be the dad. Now, the reason I say that's new findings is that, well, I just found it out. I've just found something new today. It was new to me. Obviously, to Jacqueline Weaver, it wasn't new because she reviewed this book on September the 12th, 2017. And then 9 days later, after reviewing the book, Then she started writing about the Swigert. So that seems like kind of interesting timing to me, right? Like, at the very least, giving her all benefit of the doubt, she's a very thorough researcher. Before she writes one blog post, she'll read the books of the people that she's going to be writing about. I've read 2 of Dave Acton's books, so, I'm a thorough researcher too, I guess. And then the other thing that was news to me was that Stephen Biss, the lawyer for Robert David Steele going against Jason Goodman, the former lawyer for Defango, the lawyer for Timothy Holmseth, introduced by Defango, the lawyer for Devin Nunes, the guy that's in the news, like the lawyer for Trevor Fitzgibbon. He's in the news just about every day right now, right? Before he went to law school, he got a degree in military intelligence. And I didn't realise that. And that's kind of a big deal, because that means the guy is a spook. He's come from the intelligence community to become a lawyer, and no wonder he's, the lawyer for the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. So, that puts a lot of colour on the interactions between the Bisses and Defango in particular, right? It's just another intelligence community connection for Defango. And also for Thomas, and Thomas doesn't deny these connections. Other people deny he has them, but it seems quite clear that he has them. And so, what I've got here is the review by Jacqueline Weaver of George's book, which is on Amazon.com. It's not on her blog post; it's on Amazon. Like, you go look at the book on Amazon and click the reviews, and you'll read that. And then I've also got the stuff from her post about Robert David Steele that talks about Stephen Biss. So here's her breaking this down. In the example, the first focal point of the ellipse is Thomas, the last ghost. He sends a message to Jason Goodman. He wants to feed into Jason's paranoia that he was set up by an organised group of deep state-sponsored actors. Well, that's not Jason's paranoia. That's his defence. That's the basis of his entire defence, which, Miss Weaver should know. Mrs. Weaver, perhaps it is, I guess, because she talked about her husband at one point. She knows, because she's the one covering this case and posting every single court document. And I presume that she reads the documents. She doesn't just host them. So, she is deliberately miscategorizing Goodman's position because she knows better. Right? She knows better. But the motive behind this message is to find another person who will target Schoenberger's adversaries, Manuel Chavez III and Jacqueline Weaver. His only evidence is a nonsensical Twitter message from the second focal point of the ellipse, Steve Outtrim. Steve's Twitter message mentions new findings which represent the 2 old articles, 9 days apart in 2017. The book review I wrote was removed from my blog because no one was interested in reading it. I regularly cull posts about once a year that have become irrelevant. Now, first of all, that's a little strange. I've never heard of a blogger doing that. Oh, this post is irrelevant now, I'll take it away. Yeah, you weren't just trying to hide your tracks of George Webb and stuff? I don't know. So either that post was found on the Wayback Machine, or someone has been keeping a detailed record of my articles going back 30 months. Right. Well, in fact, it's neither of those things. It's what I just told you. Occam's razor, the simplest explanation, is usually the correct one. Go to Amazon, read for yourself. That's where it came from. The other article noted by Outtrim is Operation Whiplash, which is an unflattering critique of former CIA officer Robert David Steele. How that critique proves that Jacqueline Weaver is deep state CIA, I have no clue. Outtrim says it was the first Swigert post on my blog, but he does not clarify which Swigert he's referring to or what his point was in referencing 2 unrelated articles. So what she's saying, right, this idea that Thomas and I are setting up Jason with this ellipse attack is just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even make sense to her. Like, she can't actually explain the attack. Her only explanation is that I'm trying to prove that she's deep state CIA. But where in my post at all does it say anything about her being deep state CIA? It doesn't say that at all in my tweet. Now, in Thomas's tweet, he says, I suspect Chavez and Weaver of being deep state sponsored actors. Steve is to be thanked, honest man. Well, Goodman didn't agree with that, but obviously because he's a dishonest man, and I am an honest man, so what's he going to do? All he can do is lie. But, you know, Thomas is saying what he suspects, and he's saying that what I tweeted about George Webb writing a book about their dad, it sounds like, you know, Dave was much closer to their dad than George was, and all the ham radio stuff, you know, Dave was doing with his dad. So that, you know, I can see why there would be some sort of tension and emotional issues between the two brothers over George writing that book rather than Dave writing that book, right? And maybe that's kind of the crux and the source of, you know, the triggering when everything happened, you know, back when Lift the Veil thought that George was Dave and stuff like that. Back in those times, this is maybe like the crux, the nexus, the genesis of those tensions, you know. Or maybe this is a subconscious thing that neither of these men even, you know, actively acknowledge themselves, and yet can still a driving force in their relationship. Anyway, either way, I think it's extremely interesting. It's a post about George Webb, and the reason Leopard Meroz is mentioned is, you know, she reviewed the book, and she reviewed the book before she was writing about these guys on her blog. I think that's interesting. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's proof she's deep state CIA. And if you read Thomas's tweet, he's not even really saying that, you know, his suspicions of Chavez and Weaver being deep state sponsored actors are based on this tweet. You know, it sort of implies more that he has these suspicions, and this tweet is something that adds to his suspicions. But I mean, it's not. You know, there's no attack on anybody in my post at all. So to say that this is some form of reputation attack, and Jason Goodman, what is in my? There's nothing in here about Jason Goodman in any way. So how can my tweet be an attack on Jason Goodman? It's just ridiculous. It's like, well, if it's saying that, you know, and this happened to me today on Twitter. One of DeFango's mods is saying that if I like a tweet from Thomas, then I'm endorsing every action he's ever taken in his life. I mean, this is most ridiculous. It doesn't even matter if the action is described in the tweet or not. Just the mere liking of any tweet about anything for any reason is an endorsement of every one of this man's actions. It's an absolutely ludicrous position. It makes no logical sense, and yet this is the attack vector that these people are using. So, coming down back to this article, Steve Outtrim claims that Thomas Schoenberger provides evidence. Well, he certainly does, and I've shown it, and his detractors do not. Well, I think many of his detractors on Twitter do not provide evidence when asked, absolutely. And you can look at my Twitter timeline and you see examples of that. The greatest example being DeFango doing a 3-hour, you know, stream where he's going to destroy my life by revealing all of the facts, all the inaccuracies on my website, and, you know, he couldn't find one. And in the process, he lied 27 times, which I documented with evidence at burners.me. It's called Debunking DeFango. Time after time, Steve Outtrim has been proven wrong by various persons seeking to publicly correct the defamation which has been committed against their reputations. Well, where is the citation for this statement? Give me one example of a time where I was proven wrong by people trying to correct defamation against their reputations. Give me one example of that. You know, there's no examples. She's never communicated with Manuel Chavez and has no association with him whatsoever. Yeah, well, she's written about him, hasn't she? I don't know. I mean, well, I guess she's not writing about it if it's hosted on her blog as a court document, but she's publishing content about the guy, that's for sure. But anyway, whatever. Whether she knows him or not is irrelevant to me. I've never claimed that she did. Schoenberger slandered and libelled my name as well as my family in his Twitter accounts and YouTube channels, including his most recent one, Coronavirus Updates. He spread falsehoods using the hypothetical question method that my family's publishing business was associated with CIA Mockingbird. And then she describes how it was a small weekly paper that her, grandmother started, and then her father wrote all these editorials about open housing. Someone burned a cross in their yard and they got death threats and curses. I mean, great, good for her. I'm glad that, her family is trying to get the truth out. But, I hope she sticks to it on her blog, because she's saying things about me that aren't true. And why is she doing that? because she doesn't like Thomas. She's convinced herself that I elliptically attack people with Thomas, and so therefore I'm fair game, and she can lie about me all she wants. I mean, people are being driven nuts over this shit. And it's not Thomas that's doing it to them. It's the people, promoting this dialogue of Thomas being this most evil manipulator in the internet that's, causing all these people to suicide and stuff like that. People are lapping it up. They're like, oh, yeah, Thomas, he killed Cappy and he killed Sam Fullerton. Yeah, oh, he's going to kill that Zach kid as well. Yeah, that's right, yeah. And then people retweet it and they do videos about it and they say it. And, you repeat a lie often enough and people will become convinced that it's true. And I really feel for Thomas in this because I know that they're lying about many of these things. I've been studying it. I've been producing the evidence. I've seen what happened. I've documented it. And I know that they're lying about me as well. And, if they are successful in eliminating Thomas, who's going to be the next main target for them? I personally only have one guess. But, they're attacking me now anyway. I've never worked for the government. Well, I mean, whatever, I haven't said any of this stuff about her at all. So, Thomas said she's into CIA, black sorcery. I don't know. I'm not responsible for what Thomas says. If you don't like what Thomas says, go take it up with Thomas. She's been in touch with him. So, in hindsight, here now we're getting to the crux of the matter. The article I wrote about the Canadian lawsuit Gabe Hoffman versus Zach McQuaid set off a flurry of veiled threats and falsehoods. Reviewing the totality of that reaction from Thomas Schoenberger, Steve Outtrim and others opposed to Gabe Hoffman, I am beginning to see the manner in which this group attempts to entrap anyone who reproves their reputation destruction activities. Now, I categorically deny and denounce that statement. I have never been involved in any reputation destruction activities. And I challenge Jacqueline Weaver to provide a single example of what she's claiming here. She's just saying this stuff, this libelous stuff, while calling me a libeler. When I post about people, when I write blogs, when I make videos, I show the evidence. I provide the citations. I back it up. She's just slandering me without any of that. But, this is definitely the crux of it. So what happened was that she posted this post about Zach's case, about Gabe suing Zach. And she hosted it on this website, trackingmeroz.wordpress.com, which is her website. She doesn't deny that. And in that document, it contained Zach's home address. Now, he lives in an apartment complex, and it didn't contain the specific number of his apartment, only the address of the complex. But so what, right? I mean, if you know somebody lives in a particular apartment building, you just wait out the front of that apartment building until you find them, right? It's like, it's to say that it's only doxing if you provide the apartment number. That's bullshit. If you dox someone's home address, that's doxing. That's what it is. That's what doxing is. Look it up. And in this case, it's not just that he's, the victim, the defendant in a lawsuit from someone who is, notorious for launching these types of lawsuits and other types of attacks on people. This is in relation to Isaac Cappy. Zach has been investigating the death of Isaac Cappy, as have I. The death of Isaac Cappy. Cappy's dead. He's a YouTuber. He's someone in the truther community who's not with us anymore, just like Tracy Twyman. And how many other deaths have there been in this community? Jen Moore, Task Force, someone also very, very connected to this group and connected to this story. This is for real. People are dying. Alessandro, Louder Than Love. He had two people trying to break into his house the other day at the same time that this guy's threatening these lawsuits against him and deplatforming him, getting him taken away, ruining his ability to live his life and make a living and be who he wants to be, making sure he gets taken off every single channel and platform that he possibly can, and you got to wonder why with this stuff, right? And then why are they sending teams of people out trying to... why have they got Esteban coming DMing me and trying to get me to make anti-Semitic statements so they can then pursue me for anti-Semitism? Like, this is some sort of operation. This isn't just one guy who's like, some people talk shit about me on the internet, I'm going to sue them. There's some big stuff going on here, and more than one person involved in it. Zach is, I think, his fear for his life is actually quite legitimate. I would be afraid for my life if someone doxed my home address, and particularly if I was in, a bigger country than I am right now. And in relation to this, where people are winding up dead, this is not some... You could be a wealthy, successful hedge fund guy who lives in a $40 million house, and you can say, this kid, the things he said about me, they've ruined my life, it's so terrible, I'm afraid to go outside, give me $1 million. Now, is that real? Is that really, really legit? Is that really legit he's afraid to go outside? He lives in a gated community with 24/7 manned guards in the community, one of the most exclusive gated communities in the entire world. He's afraid to go outside because of some YouTube videos that was seen by like 40 people. I mean, look, maybe people are sympathetic to the plaintiff and they think, of course he's afraid to go outside. You're so mean, Steve. You're so mean to question if he's afraid. But these same people who think that I'm mean to question if this guy's, really afraid or just trying to say it for his case to get $1 million, the same people absolutely cannot accept that Zach would be afraid for his life when he doesn't have the resources to defend himself. He doesn't have manned security guards. He doesn't live in a gated community. And his home address has just been doxxed by Tracking Meroz. That's the website that doxed his home address. So I contacted her and asked her to remove Zach's address. Just redact it. Look, if you want to post the court documents, okay. I mean, I'm not sure that that's legally allowed, but that's her choice. But just all you got to do is just redact the address. Take the address out because the kid's in fear for his life, And she said she was going to consider it, and then she said she went to church and came back from church and said, "No, fuck him. Good that he's afraid for his life. I'm going to leave it up. Let him die." That's basically the attitude that I got from her responses. But we'll go and look at the actual words in a second, and you can make up your own mind about it. But she's on February 24th, which just happens to be my birthday, right? Esteban, and I was expecting an attack on my birthday because last year the Sawyers decided to speak out against me for the first time. So this year it's like this freaking clown, Trujillo, and appeal to Steve Outtrim. Well, I'm not going to his stupid website, but at the beginning of the appeal, he posts the following screenshot, which is me saying, "Over time, it becomes clear that the people attacking TS are mostly scumbags and liars. The people who stand with them are nice, good, smart, accomplished people. I've also noticed anyone making any comment anywhere that is slightly favourable to him immediately summons these demons." Well, I stand by that. I stand by that statement, and these demons, I don't see them as good, smart, accomplished people. I see them as people who spend massive amounts of their time on Twitter just trying to tear other people down and never posting evidence when they're asked to. So, whereas the people on Thomas's side that are defending him, they're Christians, and not just saying that they're Christians. Actually, you can see their behaviour. They're actually showing Christian behaviour. They're turning the other cheek. They're showing compassion. They're showing mercy. They're trying to wish well on their enemies. They're trying to wish a better life for their enemies. And then so the article ends abruptly. Tracking the Leopard Meroz has always had a liberal comment policy. That liberality is now being withdrawn. Now, that's kind of a bit weird, but I'm going to explain what I think that means in a second. But that's the whole post. It's just boom. And so the elliptical universe of the crypto beast and the Grand Master of the Order of the One-Star Monk Tale, right? That's the title of the post. And then the quote from the Psalms, "What shall be done unto thee, thou false tongue?" So she hasn't shown anything that I've said that's false, but she's implying that I have a false tongue in this post. She's outright accusing me of organised reputation destruction in an elliptical relationship by targeting Jason Goodman, because Thomas retweeted my tweet and said, Jason, you should look at it. Now, why would he want Jason to look at it if it was going to be destructive to Jason's reputation? Right? Like, instead, he's saying, like, Jason, you would be interested in this. You should read this, because the guy up against you, he was a spook before he was a lawyer. Now, maybe Thomas is trying to take my tweet and weave his own narrative around it. Maybe he is, but it's nothing to do with me. You know, how can I control what people say in a retweet comment? You can't. I mean, is this lady even on Twitter? Maybe she doesn't know how it works. I know she's getting a bit older, but she seems to be a competent blogger. And then, you know, going in and about this stuff of where I got doxxed and Burning Man and $50 million. Like, what, why? How is that relevant to anything elliptical? You know, what does this mean? The opportunity of the century. What does that mean? You know, is she trying to, by putting this quote in, she's trying to imply that I hire professional trolls to mount sock puppet attacks? Because some guy said that on Facebook, so that therefore it must be true. That's our standard for doing reputation attacks on people now. Facebook posts. Well, okay, let's move on then to where I think this is coming from, right? And this is this post here. Gabe Hoffman versus Zachary McQuaid, aka Zach Quaid, is the post. And she's posted this full complaint here. You can, I won't read the whole post on the show because I'm actually going to have to get going in a minute. So let's go through these comments, right? So in the comments, Dave has said, thank you for your fairness, which I don't know about that. And then I've said, thank you in anticipation of letting me post this lengthy reply. And if you don't want to hear, let me know. I'll put it at my own blog instead. But, you know, I don't need to promote the stuff at my blog. But, you know, I really felt for Zach, and I wanted to have a try to see if I could, you know, just ask her in kindness and out of the kindness of her heart, just redact his address. How does it help your blog? How does it help your case? How does it help your Christian commentary for him to be afraid for his life? Just redact it. It's simple. So, you know, he's afraid for his life. Here's the source. I'm not trying to imply you did something wrong, but, you know, now that you know he feels his life's in jeopardy because of what you did, do you still need to do it? Can't you just redact it? And, you know, maybe she hasn't broken any laws, but sometimes, you know, the law shouldn't be the only factor in our decisions, you know. Sometimes just because, like, the law doesn't require us to do something, but our faith requires us to do something. And you know, to be a good person requires us to do good things and to do the right thing. Even if there's no obligation on us to do it, we do the right thing anyway. That to me is what a good person is. And in the case of someone fearing for their life, why would you dox them? And when you've been called out on it, why would you insist on continuing to do it? And then I'm pointing out that this isn't just that she's putting it on her own site, and, you know, she's got a very small readership, and none of her readers would want to hurt Zach McQuaid, so who cares? But no, it's being tweeted out by these accounts with large followings and retweeted by them. They retweet their own tweets, and, you know, the guy runs 2 accounts and retweets each one from each other, you know. And I'm pointing out that, you know, these type of things, it's easy for the rich to make it work in their favour. You know, like this poor guy, he doesn't have $1 million. He can't even afford a lawyer, right? And people say, well, but you have money, Steve, so therefore you should have to pay for his lawyer. Well, why? Why do people pay for lawyers for strangers? Like, I mean, do people really think that should be the standard of our society? But, you know, this is, it's, if I wanted to be a cyber bully and bully people with my wealth, It would be very easy to. It would be easy to just launch all sorts of frivolous lawsuits, and you get enough lawyers to put enough case law in, and it can't be argued that it's wasting the court's time, and what are they going to do? But what really gets resolved from this? And this is the point that I'm trying to make in this thing. And, okay, it is before a court, and the court's going to resolve it. But by doxing him, and maybe, what if the worst were to happen, right? And the people that have been killing people were to track this guy down. Like, I mean, would there be a criminal liability in publicly posting his address? But it's a much harsher punishment. Even for him to just have to live in fear of this is a much harsher punishment than anything that the court's going to provide. Even if the court agreed with everything that Hoffman said and said, yeah, Zach, you got to pay Gabe $1 million. That's not as bad as living in constant fear of your life or worse things happening. It's not as bad as people trying to break into Alessandro's house. Having to be chased off with firearms. And it's not going through a court process. Like, basically, this lady's just deciding, well, I side with Gabe Hoffman. I've been defamed. I know what it's like to be defamed. We really have to stop all this defaming that's going on, and I'm going to stand up against defamers. Okay, that's her position. That's her position in life. That's her blog. That's what she wants to write about. Fine, she's welcome to it. But that isn't a court process. That's not considering Zach's case on its merits and then handing out justice on its merits. This is vigilante justice. This is the Wild West. This is taking matters into our own hands and saying, well, I don't care if he dies. I'll just dox him. It's just the building, not the apartment number. Yeah. So anyway, I've argued my case here, and I've said that like, really, the damage done to this guy's professional reputation from a few YouTube videos that were hardly seen. Can it really be measured in dollars? Did he lose clients over this? Did his hedge fund lose clients? People didn't want to support him anymore? And how do you know if his hedge fund did lose clients that they were lost because of the clients were watching these YouTube videos? Or wouldn't it be a more plausible and logical conclusion that, it might be related to the performance of the fund, or even just global macroeconomic conditions, like we're seeing, markets tanking around the world. Maybe people have been cashing up and getting out because that's the prudent financial thing to do. I mean, if I'm going to invest in Cayman Islands hedge funds, I've got to be a professional investor. I've probably got to spend $1 million plus on the investment. I got to read the legal documents, or maybe even have my lawyers read it. I'm going to do that professionally. I'm not going to invest in a hedge fund in the Cayman Islands or not because of some 26-year-old kid in Canada doing YouTube videos. I don't make investment decisions that way as a professional investor. And I don't know any other professional investors who make investment decisions that way either. So maybe the plaintiff does, and that's part of his case, is that he intends to produce some professional investors who will give testimony that, they saw the video and no longer invested in the fund. But he hasn't alluded to that in any of the documents I've read so far. So look, here's her response. Steve, you're always welcome to post your opinions here. This is February the 16th, so that lasted about 12 days. My only request with regard to comments is that one sincerely explain their position so that the reader can understand why there might be a difference of opinion. After that, the reader can make their own determination on the matter. Well, I think that's what I did, and it says there, yours sincerely. I think I used a few words and I quite clearly explained my position. And people are allowed to have a difference of opinion. That's fine. But why can't we have a difference of opinion and just not dox this kid? Seems a simple request. So I forgot to add, I will see if I can redo the PDF to eliminate the address. I do respect privacy concerns. So she says, but actions speak louder than words. However, I'm not so sympathetic with those who defame and place others in jeopardy from anonymous internet hideouts. This is hypocritical at the very least. Okay, I don't know. I mean, I'm posting everything as Steve Outtrim. I'm not posting from anonymous internet hideouts, and I also don't defame people, you know. People accuse me of defaming them because they don't like what I say when I present facts. Like when I point out Defango's lies, he accuses me of defaming him. But truth isn't defamation. Okay, so anyway, she said she's going to do it. Thank you, that's great. Well, post worked, very happy. And then 3:48 p.m. So later on that day, I was on my way out this morning to church when I answered your comment. Now that I'm home again, I looked into whether the legal complaint address could be regarded as doxing. The address is a large complex, no apartment number was identified. Well, yeah, as I said in the post, so what? And then I just noticed that Thomas Schoenberger published a video last night on the subject, and it seems that all of this concern is just the usual whining and whimpering and drama that has been going on for some time now. People are dead. Isaac Cappy's dead. Jen Moore is dead. Tracy Twyman is dead. These people are dead, right? This isn't some fucking unmanly whining. This isn't like YouTube drama. This is actual drama. People are dead. The defendant decided not to defend himself in court, although most certainly someone like yourself could have hired him an attorney. What? Why? I don't understand. By choosing to default rather than standing up for his public statements, I've decided to leave the complaint as is. Okay, so, you know, this kid has never been in anything like this before. He doesn't know what's going on. You know, I've encouraged him to speak to an attorney. He should talk to an attorney, but attorneys don't want to take his calls. I mean, it's like he doesn't have the money to pay them. Well, he could just get legal aid. Well, you know, if it was a criminal charge, he could get a public defender, right, to take the case. But it isn't. It's a civil charge. So, you know, I mean, he would love to defend himself against these charges if he knew even where to start, if he could get someone to sit down with him and take him through the process. I mean, I live in New Zealand. I'm a businessman. I'm an internet guy. I did a year at law school at college, but I did a degree in business. And, you know, I studied New Zealand law. I don't know anything about Canadian law or courts. I know a little bit about US law. I've certainly been learning a lot by following Dave Acton, and it's been fascinating to understand the processes and the procedures. But, you know, Canadian law seems to be quite different. You know, for example, one big thing is that they don't have PACER. And PACER is a public access to the court electronic records. It's a way you can pull up any court document from your computer. They don't have that in Canada. I've been looking for it. So how did she get this document? So I attempted to warn him of the manipulations and lies of Thomas Schoenberger. Have you done that, or are you encouraging the defendant to manipulate others by exhibiting an unmanly whining? Well, you know, I've encouraged Zach to get an attorney. I've told him that I can't get involved. Because Gabe has said that he's suing me as well. I mean, Monkey Savant does a video saying that Gabe Hoffman is in formal communications with Steve Outtrim over his lawsuit. And this is what, 3 months ago? 4 months ago? I haven't heard shit. What lawsuit? I mean, how could there be a lawsuit? There isn't any fucking defamation to begin with, right? But, you know, he's suing Thomas. I don't think that's going too well. I haven't seen too many updates on the court docket there. He's suing All American Cartel, Julio Hawks. He sued Ali Alexander, who filed a motion to dismiss because of jurisdiction, because he lives in a different state and he didn't do anything in the state of Florida. And the court agreed and granted him the motion to dismiss. Gabe, of course, immediately did a tweet saying Ali was denied his motion to dismiss, the complete opposite of what happened. So, no, I mean, I haven't tried to warn anyone of manipulations and lies of Thomas. You know, I don't. What are the lies? You know, I keep asking people for that. I mean, is Meroz going to produce them? Where's her citation for this? Now, on February 6th, she filed a criminal complaint against an anti-government individual who she's not publicly naming. I suspect that's Queen Tut. That's just my gut feel. Provided an inch of paperwork. They've been all over the place creating problems under anonymous handles. I'm getting very wary of anyone who targets others online with defamation, which in the US is unprotected speech. So this is the narrative, right? She's feeding back the narrative that Thomas uses all of these sock accounts to run this reputation destruction organisation, right? This is the narrative. And I just don't think it's true. As someone who's been following it closely and collecting the evidence, I think that basically DeFango doxed Thomas and has been trying to set him up and frame him ever since. And he's, very skillful narrative manipulator. That's basically what he does. That's what his whole channel is about, and that's why people want to work with him, as far as I can tell. If you can dissuade some of these persons from their defamation, that would be wonderful for those of us on the receiving end. So, what a crazy comment, right? She's okay. I'll remove the doxing. I went to church. I changed my mind. Fuck him. I'll dox him. And also, you better pay for his lawyer. And also, you better tell your buddy Schoenberger to stop defaming people. Hey, Thomas, stop defaming people. Okay, you happy? How the fuck am I responsible for anything he does? And then here we go. Good old Esteban with the elliptical fucking attack. He comes in and weighs it. Oh, this fake signalling a poor Christian artist is sued by a wealthy Jewish financier. Well, I mean, is that not what's going on? And anyway, so this guy comes back and it's straight to the attack vectors: anti-Semitism, slander, Outtrim slander, blah, 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 blah. Now pile on. So in my response, I haven't attacked Leopard Meroz at all. Even today, I'm not trying to attack her. I'm just saying what I think's going on here. I haven't made any anti-Semitic comments. I have close Jewish friends. I had a rabbi friend of mine gave us a blessing at our wedding. I mean, why would an anti-Semite ask their friend, who's a rabbi, to bless their wedding, right? It's a silly attack, And yeah, I don't support the political movement of Zionism, but what's that got to do with Judaism? How does it relate to Judaism in any way? Why should I pay for the defense? And here's Esteban saying, if you die, it will be because you chose to ignore a real problem in real life. Own your bad choices, Zach. He's basically saying, oh, well, if he dies, he deserves it. I mean, that's just awful. That's awful, I think Zach's a great guy, I think Zach has he believed in Isaac Cappy, and he believes Isaac Cappy was murdered, as do I. And he believes some people's behaviour is very suspicious in the wake of the murder. I believe some people's behaviour in the wake of the murder is suspicious as well. Do these lawsuits take the suspicion away? And here we go. You corrupt, deluded, partisan jackass. Blah, blah, blah. It's pathetic does not begin to describe you. You are despicable. Always ad hominems with this guy. Blah, blah. And look, here we go. All of this will soon be changing, Steve, because the legal playing field is going to be suddenly readjusted. Some folks will not like it. In fact, I'm sure that you in particular will not like it. Word to the wise, but no need to heed me. So, this guy's always threatening these lawsuits as well, and he's told me directly that he's in communication with Gabe Hoffman and sending private communications from me to Hoffman. So, the implication there is that, there's some big legal matter coming up. And I see, now that Gabe is taking this QAnon attack vector into his lawsuits, and Magaco, of course, the Q slayers, they're trying to take down Q as well. It makes me wonder if they're going to try some crazy shit like that. But, I don't lose sleep at night over this stuff. I just think this is all talk, and these guys, the longer they go like this talking, the worse it looks for them. You brought this all upon yourself. Well, how did the Leopard Meroz doxing Zach's home address, how did I bring that on anyone in any way? All I'm doing here is saying, hey, the kid's afraid for his life. Could you maybe just redact the address, please? And here's good reasons why you should do it. That's I think a reasonable request in the circumstances. And there you go. Careful with the anti-Semitism, Steve. What anti-Semitism? There's not a single thing in this post in any way that's anti-Semitic. It's got nothing to do with Jews, this post. He's the one bringing Jews up and that's saying that it's about this wealthy Jewish financier suing a poor Christian artist. I don't think anybody else sees religion as a factor in this. I think everybody else sees this as a rich bully, using the legal process to fight against someone who can't fight back. And so anyway, there's just some evidence of the things that I've said about Esteban, which, he's in the comments here denying. He's saying, how dare you say that about me? And then here's me pointing out all the times that he's actually just, he's said them himself in his own words. He was at the Presidio in 1986 when Michael Aquino was there, and when the satanic ritual abuse of children was happening. He was actually stationed there. So Aquino has an alibi. Esteban, I challenged him this week to give us what his alibi was, and he refused to produce one. So he has no alibi. He admits he was at the Presidio in 1986, which is when these children were being abused. Aquino was out of the San Francisco for half the year. He was at National Defense University in Washington. But Esteban was there. So what's going on? And here he is talking about he was being a magician. Magician is like his code on his keybase, and he talks about John D and stuff. I'm not gonna. This isn't all about this freaking idiot, but look, he's going on and on and on and on and on. Keep it up, you snake. I have a feeling that your legal bills are going to get very pricey indeed. You deserve every evil condemnation that befalls you. You are bringing it all down upon your own head. Yep, by asking for this guy's address to be redacted, I deserve every evil condemnation that's ever befallen on me. I mean, you should see the shit. I got DeFango saying that I'm responsible for and Doug Stewart, the fires in Australia that killed 34 people and 1 billion animals. Esteban saying I deserve that because I brought that on myself. How did I bring it on myself to be accused of mass murder in a country that I don't even live in? I mean, they're two island nations. It's not like I can get in a car and drive there. Anyway, now, and this is where I think it's really coming in, right? Can you explain how you got this document in the first place in order to publish it here? I note that it has not been signed or stamped. And I'm talking about this document here, the statement of claim against SAC. You can see here it's filed on the 19th of December. And I won't show you the next page because it's got his address on it. I did have a redacted version lined up, but I must have forgot to get it ready. How did she get this document to post it? Because there isn't a pacer in Toronto. And we have a look at this one here. Court Services Division. This is the Canadian rules for getting access to court documents, right? General public access to criminal, public access to civil. So it says, upon payment of the prescribed fee, members of the public are entitled to see any current list maintained by the Court of Civil Proceedings commence, any documents filed in a civil proceeding or any judgments entered. So you are allowed, if you pay the fee, to see documents that are filed in a civil proceeding. So there's a daily court list which has basic court information for the next day. And they can post public documents which can be viewed at no charge. And then you could get a copy of that docket list. And then other documents, the court staff have to remove the stuff to send the document out, right? So, look, it's possible to get these court documents, but it's nowhere near as easy as it is in the United States, right? Where you just go to a website and pull it up. So how did she get the documents? And did she actually get them from the court, or did she get them from the plaintiff? And so I'm wondering about that. And I've asked, Can you explain how you got this document in the first place in order to publish it here? I note that it has not been signed or stamped. And see here, your comment is awaiting moderation. Now that's a week ago. So usually, like first of all, this is a censorship approach to say I'm going to choose which comments get displayed on my site and which don't. I don't do that on my own blog. People can come and write anything, and I've almost never had to censor people. Even that Dick Esteban, comes and writes his slander on the blog, and his comments are uncensored. But usually when I've posted here, the comments are approved, and it takes like a day, maybe the next day sometimes. A week. So not only has she not allowed this comment to be published, I mean, she could allow the comment to go up on the site and just not answer it. Just ignore it. Because no one's probably reading this site except probably, me and Esteban at this point, right? Anyone that's interested in the story probably read the story and isn't going back. So it's only these people in the comments. So just stick it up and go away. But no, instead she's refusing to publish this very, very basic, pertinent question. Now, to me, that's a sign of a guilty conscience, right? Why wouldn't that go up? And then to go back to her, where did it go? Go back to her other post, where she's ended it. Oh, damn it. She's ended her other post by saying that the liberal comment policy they have is no longer being tolerated. So it's sort of an insinuation through that post that the reason she hasn't approved this comment is because I'm in a reputation destruction gang with Thomas Schoenberger attacking targets in this elliptical fashion. And for that reason, it's okay to dox people, and me asking for people for personal address information to be redacted is actually some sort of elliptical reputation attack, right? That's her justification for not letting this comment go through. But if it was perfectly innocent, why not just let the comment go through and reply and say, I called the court on this date and I paid a fee of $8 to get the document? But she can't say that, can she? So following this through, I mean, it's not quite evidence. It's not quite evidence, but I believe that it's incriminating. It's damning. But following it through, did the plaintiff send her this document, which contains the defendant's personal address information, and then she willingly chose to take the document from the plaintiff and publish it on her website, unredacted. And then, when called out on it, she said, well, I take the plaintiff's side, and this man deserves everything that's coming to him, and I refuse to redact it. I mean, it's looking like this site is being used as a tool for people to achieve their objectives. That's what it's looking like to me. I'm going to have to wrap up. I wanted to go into a bit more stuff, but I'll see if I can go through it quick. I wanted to show some of these pictures, which is so, as well as the statement of claim that she's made. That the statement of claim that the plaintiff has made. There's also an affidavit to go with the default service, and he's basically restated his case in this affidavit, but he's also added some new information. And he's saying here that the plaintiff says that because he hasn't been able to get a retraction of the offending internet material, and his appeals to the defendant's family failed, it's caused these consequences. Now, he got the channel taken down, didn't he? Am I missing something here? I thought he was very successful in getting the material taken off the internet. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, it's saying that it's severely curtailed his ability to spend time on social life, exercise, and hobbies outside of the substantial and challenging work requirements of his job as an investment manager. The defendant's campaign and internet defamation and harassment has left him depressed, shocked, and troubled. Now, of all the lawsuits he's got going on, Thomas and Julio and Ali Alexander and Zach, and who knows what if there could be more, who knows. But of all of these lawsuits, how can he tell that it's Zach's videos in particular that make it difficult for him to exercise? I mean, I don't get that. You can't just go for a swim in your pool. You can't just get an exercise bike or something. Like, you don't have a gym in your $40 million house. You don't have a gym in your gated community you can go to or anything. Like, this guy made a YouTube video about me, so now I can't exercise. What? I don't know. I find that extremely bizarre claim. And then here we go. As noted earlier, a QAnon follower has alleged to have committed murder, and I have a reasonable basis to fear for my personal safety. Now, Zach says he doesn't know anything about Q. He followed Isaac Cappy. Cappy was a QAnon follower, but Zach's is not a Q follower. He said he occasionally watches InfoWars, but Gabe has been on InfoWars, and InfoWars promoted Q. So is Gabe denouncing and disavowing InfoWars? Is Gabe saying he never wants to go on InfoWars again because they promoted Q? He's afraid for his life to go on InfoWars because Q followers watch InfoWars? I mean, it just doesn't seem right. And so it seems to me that there's a bigger agenda going on here, this Q Slayer agenda that has been promoted not just by this guy, but by the people that he seems to be associating with as well. They're all promoting the same agenda, and it's to take on QAnon, QAnon being one of the biggest threats that we have to the deep state and to the entrenched system, the power structure of the bureaucracy. These are the people against Q, and they're trying to take down anyone they can. If they can use anti-Semitism to get you, they will. That's how they got Owen Benjamin. If they can use QAnon to get you, they will. That's how they're trying to get Zach and Julio. And in fact, the entire operation against Q, you look at this guy, Will Sommer, who just wrote about Thomas and DeFango. He wrote about Cappy as a crazed QAnon supporter. And Cappy sort of became the Media Matters poster child for look at these crazy Q people. These crazy Q people, they think that there's pedophilia in Hollywood. They think Hollywood actors and directors are involved in child abuse. Steven Spielberg's daughter comes out and says, yeah, I'm a hooker. And dad says, yeah, that's great. I'm really happy for her. And she says, like, yeah, I was basically abused as a child, but it's all right. It wasn't my dad. He's like, yeah, well, it's cool. I'm glad she's getting into the porn business now. Like, what the fuck, right? The things QAnon talks about, they're hitting the mainstream news now. Like, they're coming true. They're becoming real. It's been an incredibly effective psyop, and I was one of the first people to call it a psyop. But they're running a psyop on the psyop now by basically they say that these people are internet stalkers who are trying to ruin people's lives, and they're QAnon followers, and therefore anyone that supports QAnon is an internet stalker who tries to ruin people's lives. I mean, it sounds ludicrous. It's just such a childish narrative. But then you have this Leopard Meroz, Jacqueline Weaver, is there pushing it. And then he's getting his digs into Thomas. Oh, here's one more to show. Where is it? This one here. Okay, so I've spent more than 100 hours with respect to the online defamation and harassment campaign of McQuaid. I constantly monitor the internet to look for postings by Mr. McQuaid and those persons he's associated with, such as Mr. Schoenberger and Mr. Jacques. Well, so is your 100 hours in all these cases? Or are you doing 100 hours per case? So you've spent 4 cases, 400 hours. 40-hour working week, 10 weeks, like a quarter of the year. I mean, that's like, really? Really? Is it really necessary? Is the economic cost to you of this is so severe that instead of doing your job and exercising, you have to put hundreds and hundreds of hours into watching every one of these videos? I don't know. I memean, I've seen a lot of the videos of Thomas and Julio and Julio and Zach, and I can still exercise and do work, And then here we are. More importantly, the McQuaid postings have left me depressed, shocked, and troubled. I fear for my safety. I do not go out at nights anymore and have curtailed my social life. I have installed security cameras in my home as I am fearful of vigilante attackers who may be incited. So he lives in a gated community with 24/7 man security. Really? He's had to install security cameras in his home? I mean, isn't he wealthy enough that he should have those anyway? And maybe not for the vigilante mob, but for like the maid stealing jewelry and shit like that. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's to say that it's this kid in Canada's fault that he had to put security cameras into his house and his gated community is it's a stretch. And I questioned, has he even really done that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has. Maybe he'll show some evidence. So I want to just show this one too. Is this gonna? Let's see if this is gonna come up on my screen. Live screen. Yep, it looks like that's going to come up on the screen. Okay, sweet. So let's just watch this. I hope the audio's right. I'll just turn the audio off. Whoop. What happened there? Oh, okay, that one's not going to work. Well, I just wanted to show a video there of that Zach sent to me on Twitter, which is going through these documents that he's been sent by the court and just the stuff that goes on about QAnon. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to see that he's got like this Q shooter with a Q on his hand that killed the head of the Gambino crime family, and because this mob boss got killed by QAnon, now Gabe is afraid he's going to get killed by QAnon. But at the same time, he needs $1 million from this kid for saying that he might be a mob boss. I don't know. It's a little ironic. So I can what I'll do. How's this going to work? If we go down to this one, here we go, and I saw it in the chat. Somebody asked, why haven't we seen a Crypto Beast video in 2 months? And I've just been a lot of stuff going on in my personal life away from the internet, a lot of family stuff going on. Also, it's the middle of summer down here, so, rather than being inside streaming, I'd rather be out at the beach and stuff like that. Very hot, nice summer, but there's good stuff coming up. I've got an interview with Jason Horsley next week from the O Texture blog, and that'll be good to catch up with him. I've been doing a lot of work in this Isaac Cappy investigation, and I kind of at an interesting place there, but I don't think I'm going to talk about that today. I just want to show one more thing in this to wrap it up. So this is the statement of claim where Mr. Hoffman is saying that he needs $1 million from this kid, even if the kid doesn't have it or whatever. Here we go. The defendant's extremely defamatory video has been posted and promoted by Steve Outtrim on both his Twitter accounts, at Steve Outtrim, with over 6,500 followers, and his Twitter account, at burners.me, with 15,000 followers. Now, that is a complete lie. I did not promote any videos from Zach McQuaid on the Twitter account, at burners.me. So he's lying to the court, lying in court documents. The video has been repeatedly linked on Outtrim's website, burners.me, a website that receives substantial traffic. Well, look at this post, isn't it? An open secret asks why, here's why. I mean, the guy goes and says, why does Steve Outtrim retweet a video of Zach McQuaid? And so I did a post explaining why, and the reason I did is because he talks about Isaac Cappy's Dead Man Switch and information in it that's going to come out in July of this year. And I've been covering Isaac Cappy's mysterious death, and I've been talking about his Dead Man Switch. So a video that relates to his Dead Man Switch with new information, that's why I would post it. Now, you can go to that post and you can read all of that, and the video that he says is repeatedly linked, it isn't. The link doesn't come up because he was successful in getting the channel shut down. So that's how you deal with this type of thing. You use the existing mechanisms in place. I don't like what that video says, and I don't think it's appropriate that video of me should be hosted on YouTube. So you go through YouTube's complaint process, and if they deem your complaint as fair, they get it taken off, and that's it. Problem solved. You don't need to try to get $1 million from a young kid who doesn't have it for that, right? And then he goes on. Media has described Outtrim's Burners.me website as the Fox News of Burning Man, a label which Outtrim heartily embraced. And he's got the links here, Fox News of Burning Man. And this is where it gets really interesting to me, because this post here, the Fox News of Burning Man, I talk about Danger Ranger and doxing me. I talk about Danger Ranger doxing me. And so here is this elliptical attack happening again. That Gabe Hoffman is sort of, he's like the Q, sowing the breadcrumbs, providing the URLs to Steve Outtrim's Fox News of Burning Man posts. And then Leopard Meroz is reading through it and say, oh, look at this doxing and look at this Danger Ranger. Oh, look, I can turn this story around into not a story of Steve being a victim of doxing. Let's completely ignore anything to do with that. But let's highlight out of this entire very, very lengthy post, let's highlight the bit where it says, or Outtrim is accused in a Facebook comment of hiring sock puppets. And we'll make an entire web post around that, because that fits into the larger narrative of this elliptical reputation attack gang using these armies of sock puppets, right? And this thing, the Fox News of Burning Man, this post, if you actually go and read it, it says, Burners.me is the Fox News National Enquirer of the Playa. Cry the haters. Now, the Playa is what they call the desert surface that Burning Man happens on, the dried up lake bed. But see what it says? The haters. The haters. And see what it says here in this court document? Media. Media. So, the haters, that's his media? That's his citation? If haters say something, that's the same as the New York Times? It's nuts, right? So, why is this shit even in here? And then look at this. Burning Man receives regular and widespread coverage in American pop culture, and 70,000 people went there. What the fuck does Burning Man have to do with Zach McQuaid making videos saying that Gabe Hoffman's behaviour is suspicious and the death of Isaac Cappy? The fuck has that got to do with anything, right? So it's just, they keep throwing my name into this stuff, but they're never providing any evidence to any court at all of any wrongdoing on my part, because they can't, because there isn't any. And yet, I get these narratives from people like this Leopard Meroz, as if every allegation made against me is completely true. And she doesn't provide any evidence either. So, it's really looking to me like, this stuff is stacked up here. Now, let me just go back to my notes. I'll see if there's anything that I left out. This is a good one. So this is Thomas's feud with Meroz, calling her a CIA asset, kissing up to me, then trying to blindside me. And then look at this post. So October the 5th, 2019, she's emailing Thomas, right? And she's laughing at Stephen Biss's wife. Like, what? And calling him incompetent. And look, there are aspects to your life that would make a great Hollywood movie. That tape recording of your landlady is classic. And while I'm sorry she has her personal problems, her screaming and your attempt to calm her made for a good laugh. I mean, I don't know, like, I heard that crazy rant from Thomas's landlady, and my response wasn't to laugh. It was like shock at what was going on in it. It's like, I guess it's schadenfreude, right? People take delight in the suffering and misfortune of others. I had a Jewish landlady long ago that escaped Poland during Hitler's invasion. She came to New York and worked in a sweatshop and eventually came out of Seattle and purchased rental properties with her husband. Her husband died and she had a Polish boyfriend. One day they were fixing the fuse box in my duplex and I had a visit from a friend. We sat there listening to the landlady scream and polish at her boyfriend, and it was quite entertaining. So again, like, they're laughing at people screaming. And your ex-wife is very pretty. Stay away from ugly women like Denise and those others. My husband is scared of women that look like Cherie because she looks like she could beat up a man in nothing flat. LOL. So, and now it's like she's the victim of the stalking gang. But why is she sending these emails to the guy if she's the victim of some stalking gang? What seems to happen is that these people criticise Thomas. They take the narrative that's being spun against him and they rebroadcast it. And he goes and says, hey, wait a minute, you're saying that, but it's false. Here's what really happened. And then they say, yeah, but you're that internet stalker guy and you do all these sock puppets and someone on an anonymous account said something bad about me and that was obviously you, so fuck you, and then they can side with everyone else. They can side with the whole gang that's against TS. And they're welcome with open arms. They've got these supporters that will go like, yeah, Thomas did that to me as well. Oh, yeah, isn't he awful? Isn't he so terrible? Yeah, I'm so sorry you had to go through that, Jacqueline. And they join the hater crew. And then Thomas trying to, fight against these people, speaking ill of him. Anything he does, the entire crew points it out, descends on it and say, look, he's doing it again. There's that stalker guy. He's saying mean things to people. How dare he do that? Oh my God. And the whole gang can clutch their pearls and oh my God. That's to me what seems to be happening. So, I invite Jacqueline, the Leopard Meroz, to post some evidence for her claims. And if she can't, then she should retract them, I'm not working in any reputation destruction operation with Thomas or anybody else. I don't believe Thomas is working in any reputation destruction operation. I believe with absolute certainty DeFango is, and Jason Goodman is as well. And these things can be proved in court. And, hooray for Dave Acton because that's what he's trying to do. But, the court got moved to the judge appointed by Robert Mueller as the general counsel of the FBI. As soon as Dave brought up the FBI informant in the Port of Charleston lab, the court got moved, and the case seems to have stalled there again. So, who knows what's going on? Goodman's case with Robert David Steele is moving forward to settlement conference. Hopefully something good will come out of that for Steele, and Goodman will have to eat some crow and pay $24 million or some percentage thereof, or else keeps going on. These things go for years and years and years and years. But, the court is the place for these things to be worked out. And the court of public opinion is one thing, right? If you want to have a blog and share your opinions, that's fine. That's okay. And you want to criticize me on your blog, be my guest. Go right ahead. Talk as much shit about me as you want. But just be accurate about it, Post the evidence to back your claims up. That's all I ask. All right, thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Sorry that I didn't interact with the chat too much today. I just wanted to get through all of this, and I'm a little bit rusty having not streamed for a couple of months. But we'll get there. Tune in again next week for the next Crypto Beast podcast episode with Jason Horsley. I'll put some information out about that on Twitter, I think. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.